Hi, and welcome to Ben's Business Podcast, episode number 27, with guest Kavit Haria. Kavit Haria is the founder of ABS, Automated Business Systems. We met at Expert Empires in London last year, and Business Empires, where you're alongside Gary Vaynerchuk and then Lord Sugar. So great presentations. I've seen both of those events. You've been a speaker in London, over in New York, and all over the place. You're also the author of Don't Sleep on It, Turn Your Passion and Expertise into Profitable Business. I think it was Daniel Presley has a good testimonial for you on that new book as well that you're publishing. So Kavit helps experts and brands have more reach and impact creating their online business. He's also been featured on the Entrepreneur on Fire podcast.
Yes.
And a few other of the main podcasts out there. So welcome, Kavit.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. So do you want to, for those that don't know you, do you want to give us an overview of how you got to where you are, who you are, and what you do?
Yeah, it's a big question.
Yes.
I'll try to keep it short. I basically started to play an instrument called the tabla when I was young. And it's a North Indian drum. You play it with two hands. Not like the bongos where you play with your palms, but you play this with your fingers. Mm-hmm. And I always wanted to play this as a professional. So I studied hard, I learned it hard, I played for about 15 years. And then I realized that actually growing up in London, what I wanted to do was play the tabla with Western music, which is what I had been influenced by and what I had grown up listening to. So pop, jazz, R&B, hip hop, reggae. So I thought, well, how can I fuse this Eastern music with this Western music? And I started to face quite a lot of challenge and trouble and struggle trying to make that happen. The reason was not particularly because it wasn't an exciting idea, but because if you don't have any guaranteed shows or guaranteed recording, you're not going to get paid as a musician. So nobody would want to rehearse with me because I didn't have anything to offer them and I wasn't paying them. And so I struggled with that a little bit, and then I struggled with self-confidence and how to really get across and get myself selling to gigs without having any music to produce. And I learned from a music mentor, Bob, who shared his zone booking strategy, which is a method of how to get gigs and how to sell your music. And so after I practiced and shared that, I started to speak to hundreds of musicians and hundreds of venues, rather, about how I would get myself in those venues. And then to cut the story short, I started to play, I started to perform. I did really well for a few years. I performed with even Jimmy Page at Royal Albert Hall, who's from Led Zeppelin. I performed with so many other people as a result of doing that. But what I found was interesting was that a lot of people started asking me, well, how was I getting those gigs? How was I selling that music? How do I get recording opportunities? How do I get 3 gigs a week, etc.? And so I started to teach them and share with them the work that I was doing. And as you do, you talk about the strategies you're using, you talk about the gigs that you're playing, you talk about how you're actually sharing your music online, which was a big part of my work. And I grew like the biggest MySpace following for people that were interested in the tabla player. And so I found very quickly that if I was able to share with people and they were able to implement it, they were getting results. And it brought out this quality of me being a teacher or a sharer. And I realized that I have something there I could do. But I also didn't want to move away from my music because, of course, I was making more money sharing my ideas than I was being a musician, because musicians don't earn that much money. But I really enjoyed doing that. So I had to find a way to bring both together. And I realized that the easiest, simplest way to do that from following a few other people was to create and write down my ideas and then share them online. So I wrote down ebooks. I wrote down 5 different ebooks actually in the first few months. I created one called 49 Ways to Promote Your Music Online. And then I created another one called How to Triple Your Gigs in 30 Days. And I wrote down these ebooks, basically the entire strategy that I was using. They didn't have to be very long. And this was much before the day that Amazon Kindle was around. So I'm talking about 2005, 2006, where I started to put these down. And then I went to music forums and I said, hey, I've put together this guide. If you'd like to have it, please come along to this website that I'd created, and literally just offered it there. And the website was really basic, nothing fancy. There was no lead pages. There was no WordPress. It really just was a very simple HTML code that I'd written in a software called Dreamweaver from a book I'd borrowed in a library to learn how to do it.
Yeah, I've done the same.
Yeah, And people started to download that information. And I thought, well, hey, I'm onto something. And then I learned a little bit more about how to create PayPal buttons and sell my stuff. So I had 5 books selling at $20 a piece. And then just to speed up the story, from 2005 to 2010, I steadily grew that business. We had 120,000 musicians in our database. We had 35 different products, CDs, DVDs, coaching programs, membership sites, etc., all selling online, doing very well. But the one thing that I really credit myself for learning from that business and pushing myself to learn is how to have individual conversations with all of these people. Like, how do I have individual conversations with 120,000 people at one time? And that really comes down to creating marketing funnels, marketing journeys, autoresponders, listening to what people are saying. If they're guitarists, then giving them guitar-related information. If they're beginner guitarists or advanced guitarists, segmenting them and creating different information. And so to me now, this sounds quite basic, but really at that time, it was quite important, because in order for me to get maximum sales from 120,000 people, I had to be able to give them what they really wanted to hear. So in 2010, in 2011, I decided I wanted to go traveling. I was done working 13, 14 hours a day for a few years to build this up. And I realized I needed to let go a little bit and hire a few people. And that was really one of the hardest struggles, actually, that I had to overcome. Like the idea that actually I'm better than anybody else at doing all of the bits of my business. And I had to let go of that grit in order to bring on someone, even if they only performed at 60% or 80% as good as maybe I thought I could perform. And all of this is just like illusionary at the end of the day. I feel like no matter who you are and where you're at, we don't always need to be producing every aspect of our business at 100%, because in reality, we're not that good. Like, we're very good at our craft. We're very good at what we're really good at. If I'm really good at writing, I'm really good at writing. If I'm really good at consulting and having somebody overcome a problem, I'm very good at that. But I can't say I'm 100% brilliant at accounts, or 100% brilliant at customer service, or 100% brilliant at marketing or advertising. But I had to let go of that grip in order to hire people. So I brought on 3 people. It's completely remote. I was running this from my bedroom at my parents' house, and I was traveling the world. So I traveled to Africa, I traveled to India, I traveled for about 8 months, and I only checked my business accounts, as it were, and the spreadsheet that these customer support assistants were producing once a week. And everything was working really well. And I realized I developed an automated business where we could have marketing look after the marketing and then drive people through a funnel, but the funnels were set up really well that people were buying, and we were generating sales, and products were being shipped out, and the whole thing. So I came back and I realized that, okay, I've got to move away from this, because I don't really know what else to create. Like, I've put all my knowledge about marketing online for musicians, getting gigs, selling recording opportunities, selling out record labels. Like, I've created all that information into products. I couldn't possibly create any more. So I decided that I'm going to look for another opportunity, another aspect that I really enjoy. And one thing that I really enjoyed that became very evident very early on was teaching and sharing. So I started to be invited to speak at conferences in the UK, to speak to like 400 people, 600 people, 800 people, just about how I'd basically taken this idea, a very niched idea, and done something online that was allowing people to engage even if I wasn't there. That was very attractive to a lot of people, because it was around the time in 2010, 11, where a lot of people in the UK were becoming interested in using the internet to sell their services, to sell their products. So I started to do that, and it was great. It was really exhilarating to speak in front of so many people. Very nerve-wracking. It was the first few times I'd done it. But I realized that what people need is not just a 60-minute presentation. They really need you to be there for a long time. And so I started to do workshops, because people just said, hey, run a workshop on this topic and I will come along to it. So I did these workshops, and they kind of snowballed one thing after the other for a few years into 2 or 3 day programs that I would run in New York and London and Sydney. And after doing that for about 18 months, I realized that the true fulfillment comes when somebody really follows the steps and produces a result. But if they come to an event for 3 days and they grab as much information as they can, they usually leave with lots of notes, which is great, but lots of overwhelm, which isn't great. And so when you have a lot of overwhelm, you're not actually applying the information into your business. And as a result of that, I decided to stop doing that. And that's when Automated Business System came about in 2013 or so, where I decided that let me build the team of people who are experts, and let me just take one person on for an entire year and work with them one-on-one. and then let's just take on 2 people and then 3 people. And now we've capped it at 4 people a month. So we bring on 4 people a month and we work with them from start to finish for 12 months, which is basically everything from strategy, sales funnel design, creation. What is it that's unique about you? How do we bring your work to the marketplace? How do we expose you as somebody who's not doing one-to-one work, but one-to-many work? And how do we then build it for you? So everything from copywriting, graphic design, web design, filming your course, filming your product, putting it online, selling it, and then giving you the marketing support and structure to actually grow that business to 100 grand in a year. So that's what we've been doing. And I think it's really one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done, because just to round it up, really, just because we can see somebody that sits with you for an entire year and they produce results and their lives changed because they're actually being consistent and committed. Whereas in a 2-day workshop or a 3-day workshop, you don't really see that whole effect. So it's amazing. It also means that I'm a lot more freer with my time. I'm not having to like travel everywhere and do workshops, which was fun for a certain while, but you lose that edge. It's not something that I'm interested in. And also just really, I get to focus a lot with my time on my personal reading, my personal writing, my spirituality, meditation, things that I'm really fond of.
Yeah. And the music.
Yeah. And the music. Exactly.
Yeah.
Which still happens. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really interesting story. I heard some of that, but you've expanded on some of the other parts that I never knew about. So that's really interesting. Yeah, big crowd at Expert Empires. Anyway, I was quite impressed with the number of people you were able to engage in the crowd. So great job on that, because I witnessed that. I was in the crowd.
Yeah.
You're spot on about the overwhelm as well, and even a 2-day conference, and that's probably even more overwhelmed than just a 2-day workshop, because with a conference you're listening to speaker by speaker back to back for 2 days straight, and then there's all this new ideas and information in your mind. And I found a strategy for those listening on how to implement that. But as Kavit's mentioned, it's very difficult to implement that across, because it'll take years to implement all that information I just learned at the conference there. I'm still implementing some things now that I was learning at the conference when you were there a year ago, and I've just returned from one last month there, and I've got a whole new year of ideas that I want to implement. But ideally you want to do with that is put the ideas into like an idea list, an action list, and then I think I learned it out of Getting Things Done, a sometime maybe list, which is quite a good idea for those that go to conferences and get that overwhelmed feeling. But I agree that you're best to go take that 4 people and go all in with them, and then you actually produce those results. Like, one of your goals is to make your students £100,000 in their first year of working with you within the automated business system.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on that, on how deeply you go with people and what you do in that process?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that overwhelm thing first, though.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like what you said is spot on. Like, go to a conference, write an ideas list, and then write a sometime maybe list. And keep adding to the sometime maybe list, and don't feel the pressure of that list, because that list is just really for you to dip in and dip out of if you feel like you have time and energy in your life and schedule. You've created the space to take an idea and apply it. But the ideas list is really interesting. I try to do it a different way. Now, the workshops I used to run were very hands-on and technical. Like, we would take only 20 people and we would literally get them to build their business themselves online. So WordPress, lead pages, Aweber, etc., the softwares, and use them online. So that's why it was really challenging for them, because they had to go away and apply technical stuff, even though we had training videos to support. It wasn't like, oh, here's a whole list of, you sit for 12 hours and listen to a conference and then take ideas. You're actually doing stuff. So, but what I found to be really useful is to decide where you are in your business. So number one, are you at a place where you're looking for absolute revenue growth? Because sometimes you may be at a place where you absolutely need to generate money right now. And if that's the case, that's okay. And that's step number one. The other part of it is step number two, which is you're in a place where you need to generate revenue, but more so you need to be applying for growth. You need to be applying yourself to scale. You need to be applying yourself to improve your logistics and your operations. So like, there's 2 different elements, I think. One is immediate revenue growth no matter what. And the second is immediate improvement in efficiency and in operations no matter what. And then revenue can follow, because you're probably doing well in revenue, but you need to do the operations, and then you can increase the revenue again. So then make 2 lists based on all the ideas you get. So
Yeah.
if you go to a conference, you're going to get ideas for immediate revenue growth, and you're going to get ideas for immediate efficiency improvement. And put your ideas into these separate buckets.
Yeah.
And then whichever one you're in right now, you go ahead with that. Because what I find people do is they go to conferences and they literally write as many ideas as they can. They open a notebook they're given, they write on the first page, they write on the second page, they write on the third page. There's no organization of the ideas. Whereas if you go to a conference and immediately at the back, you create 2 or 3 pages that are categorized for immediate revenue growth and immediate efficiency. And then as you get ideas, if you know that they fall into one of those two, you go put it into one of those two. And whenever you're in one of those stages in your business, you already have that pre-made list that you've done while you've been at the conference. You don't need to spend time outside of that process trying to remember what was said by which speaker and what impact it had on you and the energy that it created in you to move with that idea. So that's something that I've done a lot, which has really helped me to push ahead. And I typically do that with books as well. Like if I'm reading on the Kindle, and if I'm reading typically on an iPhone Kindle or an iPad Kindle or even on my laptop Kindle, then I will highlight with different colors. Like if there's something that has been really touching for me, that's a very short idea that I could perhaps riff about on a YouTube video or on an Instagram video or on a Facebook Live or anything like that, I'll highlight that blue. And then if it's something that I've got that I should apply this immediately into my life or my business, then I'll apply it orange. And then if it's something that I want to come back and look at later, I'll apply it with yellow color. So the idea is that I have this organization system of how I'm reading once a week a different book and then being able to take those ideas and apply them.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I was wondering what the 4 colors are for. I'm always using the yellow and running out of the yellow, so I ended up just buying pure yellow highlighters. And I'm sure a lot of people do the same, because a lot of people ask me that question: why are you highlighting in pink? Why are you highlighting in blue? And it's usually because I've run out of the yellow. But that's quite interesting to hear that strategy. I've always thought about using something like that, but I didn't want to overcomplicate my reading process. But that's very interesting to have those sort of a key to each of the colors. Yeah.
And if I'm reading a physical book, then usually I'll get those little post-its, which are very small post-its in different colors.
Yeah.
Those in the right
and they're color coded for that key as well.
Thank you. Too many keys will complicate it otherwise.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah,
okay, cool. So back to your question, which is what exactly is the ABS and how do we go into
I'm glad you remembered that question.
So as I mentioned, it's a 12-month business development system. It's end-to-end. So essentially the idea is that somebody who is a coach, a consultant, a trainer, a speaker, somebody who's in the sharing world, somebody who's got a service, somebody who's looking for ways to reach more people and have more impact and therefore also create more income, basically will come and say, look, we want to be able to leverage your services to build and optimize our business. So what that would mean is we go through 3 stages. So I'll give you an example just to make it real. One of our clients who's featured in my book is a lady named Dr. Julie Coffey. Now she's a medical doctor, the GP in the UK in Sheffield, and she's basically realized that she's sick and tired of people receiving pills for basic things that they could solve in their health if they really just took care of their body, understood their diet and exercise process. So she decided to create a 12-week video series called Uber Health. And the idea is that you would go through a week-by-week training process to really understand your body, understand your diet, understand your mindset, understand your nutrition. If you really got this entire framework down from a GP perspective, she feels you'll be in better condition with your health. You'll be better moving towards losing weight, and you'll wake up feeling more productive and more energized. So this 12-week program is called Uber Slim, and you can get it on her website. But for what happens is that she came to us and said, we want to create this. So we sat down and we looked at strategy, and strategy has 5 different areas. The first is differentiation. What is it specifically about you that makes you stand out? Like, what is it about you that makes you really stick out from everyone else who's creating weight loss courses or energy courses or anything like that? And then we try to figure out what that is and what's special about the person. The second is your target audience. Like, who exactly are you trying to reach? How specific and detailed can we get about them? What do they read? What do they speak? Where do they hang out? What are the things about them that make them really unique? The third is your branding. The fourth is planning the course. So sitting down and actually looking at the course and saying, well, what goes in which area? How do we optimize it by adding additional bonuses? And what are the 3 tiers of pricing that we can offer? And therefore, what can we give for the different pricing? So our business consultant will sit and basically work with that client on that entire process. And then finally, the 5th is sales funnel. So we sit down on the computer and we draw out an entire sales funnel, everything from lead generation to lead capture to lead nurture to lead conversion. So we have a complete 30,000 feet view, as it were, on the entire business. So we know what we're supposed to build and how it's going to work. That's step 1, which is strategy. And then step 2 is basically implementation. So then after all of those stages and steps are done with our business consultant, the client then meets our project manager. And our project manager's role is to basically take all the work that's been done so far and build it with the rest of our team. So we have a graphic designer who'll come up with branding, logo, social media work, etc. We have a copywriter who'll write all the copies, so all the emails, all the sales pages, all the landing pages, all the video scripts to sell the course, all the email sequences, everything gets written by our copywriter, Emily. And then after that, there's the web development piece, which happens with Alex, our web developer, and he puts together the entire website based on this. And then if we're building a course for most people, what we would do is build that on Teachable. And so we have a Teachable expert, Bade, who basically comes along and builds the entire sales page, puts all the course in after it's been filmed. Our client will usually come to our studio and do all the filming with our filming company and create their entire course, which gets professionally edited, ready to go, including the sales pieces, the marketing videos, the social media videos. And so essentially all these different people are working together over 8 weeks to build this entire business up and running, to get it up and running. And all the clients are doing is giving their feedback throughout the entire process. So essentially within a month of strategy and 2 months of development, within 3 months, this person has an absolutely complete business up and running on their web with their very first main product, the tripwire, their free lead magnet, everything covered and included. And so then what we do is we hand them over to our marketing coach, and our marketing coach will say, let's work together for the next 17 fortnights. So basically, let's work together for the next 34 to 40 weeks and look at how we can give you the coaching and the guidance that you need to grow your business, to put into effect paid advertising, social media, Instagram, Facebook, etc., content marketing, and partnerships. And let's give you the coaching that you need to be able to do this week in, week out for the next 40 weeks. And that's how we get them through the entire year and all the way to the end, where we're hoping that at that point, based on the plans, based on the execution, they will be generating 100 grand in revenue the first year.
Yeah. So you literally cover every step of the way. Yeah. And that's what I was saying at the beginning, that they do it from the ground up. From that stage at the ground, like, where is the lowest kind of client you'll take in? Do they have to have an idea, product or service, or is there a certain criteria or category that you'll take?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I've personally gone on a journey with that mentally. So like, I used to take on clients who may have not had a concrete idea, and then they feel like we should be guiding them, telling them the idea. But the challenge with that is that they're relying on me and my team to give them an idea for their business. Now, I don't mind per se throwing around some feedback on somebody's idea.
Yeah.
But the success of a business is not the idea, it's the consistent execution over a long period of time.
Okay. That's
like your idea could be 60% good, but if you're daily executing on marketing, if you're daily executing on growing your business, on improving your efficiency, improving your operations, improving your sales, you're perhaps going to do much better than somebody who's got a 100% brilliant idea but doesn't do anything with it. So I could give somebody an idea, but it's not in my hands how well they're going to execute it. So that's why I think that when somebody comes to us with an idea that they're passionate about, yet they have some expertise in it, then I'm ready to say, okay, we can take on that idea.
Yeah. So the right person with the right attitude then.
Yeah, and I think that's the key point. The attitude is very, very important, because no one online can make it successful without consistent daily, weekly action in their business. It's just impossible to say, let's put up a book on Amazon, for example, and hope it sells. It's never going to sell. Let's put up a product on eBay and hope it sells. It's never going to sell unless you're engaging with enough people. Yeah. Like Instagram, right? You're never going to be able to put up some posts on Instagram and hope that you grow quite quickly unless you're every day engaging with people that are on there.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've seen that happen with even myself and clients, that when someone takes on too much at once, you've only got so much progress in each of those different angles that you take. Yeah. And you can't progress in one area focused if you do it that way. So I learned that lesson quite in a way, and I learned to stop doing some things and focus back on just the one thing. Otherwise, you can't keep that persistence in one direction.
Yeah, exactly. It can't stress that enough. I mean, so many people will come to say, I want to start this course, I want to release this course, I want to write a book to, I want to record a podcast to. And really, it's like, hey, slow down a second. Realize that there's only one thing you can do really well at this very moment. And if you just did that one thing so well for the next 6 months, it would in fact give you enough of a platform to make the other ones more successful more quickly, you know, rather than trying to do everything at once.
Yeah. I really like that, what you mentioned about the idea doesn't really actually matter, whereas obviously the persistence, the attitude is actually much more important than how good an idea is, because not that many people will take the best of ideas and go that far with it. That's a really interesting point I've not really heard before.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's easy to find ideas that have never been done before. Like every idea somewhere around the world has been picked up, thought about, remunerated, and then perhaps even executed by somebody, like somewhere around the world. The reason you may think your idea isn't done very well is because you have a spin that you can give to it. You have a way that you bring your life into that idea to make it even more exceptional. And so it's not the idea that's the magical piece. It's the fact that you are going to bring your energy to it. And you can only bring your energy to it if you're passionate about it, if it's something that excites you. Yeah,
it's similar to the idea that ordinary people can do extraordinary things as well, like that. It slightly contradicts with like what Gary Vaynerchuk and I think Ryan Dice talked about at that conference we're both at, where they said that no amount of marketing can fix a crap product. But it's slightly different because if
I think it's exactly the same in the sense that I'm not an advocate for putting out a crap product at all. I think that the foundation, like if you're not in it to create work that really matters, and that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Work that's like you can have an amazing product, but if it doesn't really matter to you or somebody else, it's worthless. Yeah. So you've got to create work and craft and art that matters. If you can really put in and create work that matters, even if you have like the best piece of work that matters, if you're not putting in daily continuous action, and so that 100% idea of amazing work means nothing. Yeah. So in the same way, like the baseline is, of course, create amazing work. I mean, that goes without being said. We wouldn't be on this call if we weren't both committed to creating great work. But at the same time, it's not the great work that's the given. It's actually, are you doing the daily activities to promote it, to share it?
Yeah. So it's quite slightly different because when you're putting in that daily work and tweaking the product, you're tweaking the product every day and making it better as well.
Yeah, exactly.
From that original idea. So that was a sort of excerpt from your book as well. That story about the doctor who you've created. Yeah. So that I heard that in your talk. So do you want to share like another chapter or what one of the chapters or some of the chapters are about in the book? Is what is it? Don't sleep on it.
Yeah, I got it right here. Actually, it's called Don't Sleep. Turn your passion and expertise into a profit. I wrote this for two reasons. One is I feel like writing books has been in my journey. And it's been about time. And I've been doing this work for 10 years or so right now, maybe more, and specifically the automated business system for about 4 years. And I find that there are so many people that we have taken, 100+ people that we have taken to help them build this successful business over the last few years. And so many of them have amazing stories, like really inspiring processes that could touch somebody and move them. And of course, I can share my story, but I think it's amazing to hear people that are experts in everyday life doing work they enjoy or doing work they don't enjoy, but dropping that to come along and say, I want to start my business and change the world with the work that I really believe in. And so I wanted to detail that entire process that we follow. And I also wanted to wake up people that are still on the fence about starting their own project, because there are so many people that are still trading their time, and time is such a rare commodity, right? There are so many people trading their time for work they don't enjoy. There are so many people trading their time for work that doesn't matter. There are so many people trading their time for income that they then quickly use up and still feel deflated and de-energized at the end of the week when the weekend comes. And so this book is about really saying to people that, look, if you believe a little bit about what you know is useful to the world, there is a process that you can start, even while you're working, even while you're in a career, or if you're already an established author or established business person, there are processes that you can put in place to really engage and scale your ideas of helping people and changing the world. And so this book really goes into that. But I'll read a little bit from the introduction.
Okay.
I think the introduction says some really interesting things about this. So it says, don't sleep on it. It's a call for you to unleash what you know. You have something to offer. You have something that's incredibly valuable to someone else. Whether you know it or not, what you know at this time is what someone else needs in order to overcome their challenges, remedy their pain, or solve their problem. My spiritual and meditation teacher, Paishri, often reminds me that my days are finite. We will never know when life takes us away, and there's no better time than today to do the work that matters. One day your life will be no more. We tend to live life without the urgency that this basic fact of life provides. There will always be tomorrow, we say. It is a stubborn illusion. But right now, somewhere around the world, maybe even right under your nose, there are people who will benefit from what you know. This is not the time to sleep on it. So if you feel that you have something to give, or a nagging sense that you have more to contribute, whether it's something you've been doing already or something you are ready to step into, there really has been no better time to start putting it into motion. That's just a few paragraphs from the beginning. But then, like the book goes into quite a lot of detail and depth with regards to how you get yourself set up. So it talks to you about rethinking the value that you provide. It talks to you about understanding your clients. It talks to you about then creating your brand, creating your course, creating your solution, your product, how to package it, how to price it, how to sell it, what the sales process is, and then marketing. So like Facebook advertising funnels that we talk about, content marketing, social media, and other marketing relationships. So that whole process of 12 months that we talk about, I've tried to take every key area of that and then distill it into the book.
Yeah. Okay. That's really interesting. So when does your book launch and when does it come out?
It launches June 26th. So that's when Amazon will actually drop it to people, and everywhere else will drop it to people's doorsteps. But it's available right now for pre-order. So anyone, and it's a little cheaper at the pre-order price. So if anyone wants to go to Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or anywhere around the world, wherever you buy books online, go ahead. You can download it, or you can pay for it rather, and buy it on pre-order on paperback and Kindle. And hopefully in the next 2 weeks, it should be out on Audible.
Okay, cool. Well done for going through that process. I wanted to touch on something you mentioned as well, the ebook. So for people like at that journey, the start of your journey, there's people probably listening or watching that might have that knowledge there. How do they go about maybe not the technicalities of getting a website, because that's pretty straightforward these days. Me and you went through the process of learning HTML through Dreamweaver, but someone who doesn't need to do that now, what they've got the shortcut, but what's this in briefest form, the way of getting an ebook online?
So everybody that's teaching something needs to create a model.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing, like in our chapter in the book called The Expert Brand, we're not talking very specifically about like design and visual brand, because that's, like what color should my logo be, and how important is the font that I use, and all that kind of stuff is important. But when we talk about creating an expert brand, we're talking about creating a model, a teaching model. Yeah. So for example, that means like in ABS, in Automated Business System, we have 3 key stages. We have strategy, we have implementation, and then we have marketing coaching. Those are the 3 levels or areas and stages of our work. That is, each one then breaks down into individual pieces. Somebody like the E-Myth, which is by Michael Gerber, has 7 key areas or 7 key systems in his model of how he teaches what he teaches, which is then what he then bases his presentations on, or his books on, or his writing on, his coaching on, his consulting on. So everybody who wants to write a piece of material or teach something needs to come up with a model. That's the very first thing. And the best way to think of that are stages. So like when somebody comes to you, they're right now at this place called the current reality. The current reality is basically what they feel right now, what they think right now, what they speak right now, what they share right now, how they believe about themselves, what they think about themselves right now. Your job is when somebody comes to you, you move them from this current reality all the way to the ideal reality, which is where they really want to be. So somebody who comes to you and wants to learn how to play the guitar is a beginner, doesn't really know how to get together the chords, doesn't know how to put them together into a song, is feeling lack of confidence because every time they strum it, it's not loud enough, it's hurting their fingers, whatever it is. Where you want to take them to is a place where they are confident in playing. They're able to pick up and play 3 songs. They're able to feel happy about doing it. They're able to feel confident about doing it without having to worry about what other people will think. If your job is to get them from the current reality to the ideal reality, you're taking them through a series of steps.
Yep.
What are those steps? What is the journey? What is going to take them from point A to point B? Because if we can identify that journey, those stages, they form the basis of your product. They form the basis of your model. Yeah. And then do that and think about that for multiple types of people, multiple scenarios, and then you'll come up with what are the key areas. And then what you then have to do is just distill that content into a book. So if you've got a book and you've got 7 stages, you can potentially have 7 chapters for one for each of those areas. And then you can write your thoughts in detail.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty a straightforward way of putting it. So there was another thing at the conference you touched on about copywriting. Obviously, you've got someone in your team that does that now, but it's like you mentioned about how the kind of strategy or the process you go through to create a title, for example, how you created the book title. What kind of process do you go through to create a really good headline in copywriting?
Good question. The headline has to include the most important benefit that the person is going to get. Mm-hmm. Like if somebody wants to lose weight, what is the reason they want to lose weight? But losing weight is the activity, but the result is usually feeling happier, feeling confident, increased self-worth, ability to be confident on the beach, for example, or in a dress or in a certain shirt, whatever it is. We have to think about the activity, which is losing weight. We have to think of the ultimate result and feeling that somebody gets, the emotional aspect of it. And then I like to always include a deadline or a thought process, which is, so losing weight to make you feel happier, more beautiful, more comfortable in 6 weeks or whatever it is. And that's typically how I would put together a headline. Those are the most important things. When I came up with the book title, for example, we thought about, well, what exactly is the book trying to do to people? What is it trying to say? Mm-hmm. And most successful books out there have had a very short, sharp, punchy title, and then a longer, more elaborate subtitle. So like Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek is something like Escape the 9 to 5, Live the New Rich, and something else. So he's got those 3 segments, which he's used that formula quite consistently. So I thought, well, I've got to come up with something catchier and short. Nothing so boring as online business but it's got to be catchy enough to when someone sees it, they're like, okay, you know, what does that say? What does that mean? And then they read the subtitle. So like the don't sleep on it thing has been working really well because like you just literally see that don't sleep on it on the pillow. And then you're like, okay, what does that mean? It could be about sleep. It could be about something else. But when you read the subtitle, which we've made purposely a little bit bigger than normal, it really does capture, I think, people's attention. So that's how we've done it. But again, time will tell and see if it's reached enough people really well.
Yeah. Okay. What books are you currently reading at the moment? Or what books do you recommend to the Ben's Business Book Club, the community of avid readers?
The very first book I read in business, which I think I remember the most, I credit the most, is Jay Abraham's book. It's called Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got. It's probably about 25, 30 years old, right? But it is really like amazing. If you haven't read it, I really recommend that you read it. Everyone else reads it. It really talks about some key foundational principles in direct response marketing, as well as setting up your business, structuring it, how to position, how to speak it, how to write it. So don't sleep, getting everything you can out of all you've got.
And your book.
And that's one of them. I also recommend...
I highly recommend all of Jay Abraham's materials as well. I listen to his audio stuff.
Yeah, I recommend any book by a lady called Bernadette Jiwa. Bernadette Jiwa writes very short books, but really fantastically created material. Very, very, very
How
good.
do you spell that?
Bernadette, and then Jiwa is Jiwa. So one of her books is called Meaningful. Another one of them is called Storytelling. A third one is called a love story, marketing a love story. There's lots of them. I have every single one of them. I read every single one of them. I recommend it very well. I also love the work by Todd Henry. Todd Henry has a great podcast called The Accidental Creative, and he's written a book called The Accidental Creative. One is called Louder Than Words. Another one is called Herding Tigers. All three of them are fantastic books for creative people.
Yeah.
And then recently I just bought, so that's stuff I recommend. The book I just bought last is a book called Happier Now. I got it just a few days ago by Natalie Kogan. She's just launched it like a few days ago. So it looks very exciting. The cover is quite amazing. I really recommend people check that book out.
So why did you pick up that one?
I love her marketing strategy right now. And seeing as I'm in the mode to share and grow my work, I like that what she's doing with her launch team, with her podcasting work, but also the book resonates with me. It talks about how to be happier now as opposed to plan for happiness or think about happiness in the future. And I really believe that happiness is now in every moment that we live, and how we position our mind for what comes in front of us and how we respond as opposed to just react to what appears in front of us.
Yeah.
The book, I've been told, is had some really nice cover work where they have bubbles on the book and they're all embossed. So I wanted to see that myself, so I purchased it.
Okay.
Yeah.
A smart consumer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a bit of both for actually reading the book, but yeah, that's interesting that you're actually doing research on the actual book as well.
Yeah, I typically read
as an author.
Though. So the ones that I do buy on paperback are usually because they are very, very good, and so I'd want to keep a copy of them with me. But otherwise, I read on my Kindle.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so it's just interesting to hear people's process of purchasing a book, because I've found my process is like an art form or a science before I end up picking up a book. It was the reason I created Ben's Business Book Club, was to make sure that life's too short to read crap books. Therefore, Amazon book reviews I found weren't reliable enough. Even Goodreads is a great community to find reviews, but on top of that, I added Ben's Business Book Club to that whole science of why I was going to pick up a book, and that would be like the last step after looking at the reviews, if it resonated with me, like you mentioned, and then finally drop it into Ben's Business Book Club Facebook group, and people give you their honest feedback in there as well. So it's like an extra level of being careful on which book you pick up, because there's literally so many books to read and not enough time to read them in your lifetime.
Even when it comes to online business, like I'm adding a book to the mix, but I definitely think that there's a lot of great books out there. There's also a lot of really bad books. I mean, I probably bought 20 to 25 different books just to make sure that I would read all the similar books that are currently available in the genre that I'm writing in. But at the same time, I wanted to make sure that the ones that are really good, I can pick out references from them and highlight them in my book. So when somebody reads my book, I feel they get the greatest value from my work, but they also get the snippets from other books that are really good, so that they can go back and refer and recommend and perhaps even read those at detail if they wanted to.
Right, okay. So you've added snippets from other books, is that what you mean?
Yeah, so like, for example,
like quotes.
Yeah, like at the beginning of every chapter, there's definitely a quote. That quotes from other authors, other experts, other speakers, other writers, people that most people won't know, because there's so much amazing work that's hidden in the world. Like some of the best books, like Bernadette Jiwa, she writes incredible books. I don't know if you've ever heard about her before, but she's written 5 to 7 different books, all of them that really make me think. Like every single one of them positions me in a different light when I read them and try to apply what she's talking about. But she's not a huge author. She's not gone out there and really shared her work. She's allowing it to grow naturally. So I want to feature people like that and mention her in my quotes, just because the work has really struck a chord with me. And I think that if it's struck a chord with me, it's going to do the same for someone else.
Yeah, the people that you're attracting, exactly. Yeah, that's really interesting. I was going to ask you as well, do you use AI or artificial intelligence in your marketing processes now? Is that something you're including?
No, not really. I haven't really got there. I think that I don't always want to be first to the game. I think
Okay.
I'd prefer to see how it plays out with other people
Yeah.
before then diving everything in. Because when I do go all in, I do go all in. But
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much more that could be done right now in social media, in video, in marketing, in the way that we share our work, that we don't even need to touch on that just yet.
Yeah. And I did hear it. If you heard any of Ryan Dice's speeches at Traffic and Conversion Summit, and then just this year at Expert Empires again, he did touch on AI and how we're kind of moving fast paced into that area. It was very interesting. But he also mentioned that human to human interaction will always win. And he mentioned that last year when we were there as well, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
even with this growth of AI, like you talked about how you want to figure out how you can connect with that 120,000 people on your list or your database, how you grow the relationship up with them. And that's really what Ryan Dice was all about, is grow the relationship with the list over trying to just expand the list or automate it completely.
Which is really interesting, because no matter like how many new things come out, no matter how many new ideas come out, it all really does come back to find an idea, attract as many people as possible on social media, then bring them onto your database, build a relationship with them that matters, and then serve you for life, just as you'll serve them for life. And it's amazing that is always the core, no matter how much of this new stuff comes out, which is why I think I'm not really as attracted to it as I am to just doing the daily grind and making sure the things that are really important happen every day.
Yeah. It can help, but it always comes back to the core principles of human relationship and how we treat our customers, really, in the end. Yeah. I was going to ask you, you did mention a couple of softwares that you use for these courses and things you put online, and any of the online stuff. The Teachable was one of them. But
Teachable is really, really good for putting on online courses. Before that, we used to just build them out on ClickFunnels. But Teachable is like an all-in-one platform for putting together good courses, measuring it, taking payments. If you have a good developer, they'll also build the sales page to look very, very neat, very good. So those are definitely areas that I recommend. Also, look at, so we use Infusionsoft or Aweber or ActiveCampaign for emails, depending on what our client is doing, what industry they're in. Lead Pages is also sometimes really good, or ClickFunnels, whichever one you want, really, for building landing pages and sales pages.
So you recommend Teachable over ClickFunnels for the
membership, for sure.
For the actual membership, yeah. It's just more advanced.
Yeah, it is built for teaching and for memberships, as it were. It's built for logins and access points and things like that. So definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we've covered most of the things we can cover in a short space of time. I will probably discuss more further and maybe another podcast interview. But thanks a lot for coming on, Kavit. It's really interesting. I look forward to seeing how your book launch goes, and we'll definitely have a few of the Ben's Business Book Club members hopefully reading it soon.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for having me. It's just fun.
Yeah, no problem.